Hey, Saners. Just finished up with the review. Thanks for waiting, everyone that's about to join the fan cams. This is going to be fun. I reckon we get straight into it. We're all probably going to be feeling a bit down. So, without further ado, let's start off with Lockie.
G'day, Jackie.
Hey, mate.
So, yeah, how do you feel? Because we didn't get the broad answer in the review, really.
Yep.
But how do you feel genuinely?
Just upset. A little bit upset.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought the first quarter was that good, and then it just reminded me classic Saints footy, isn't it? Like pinnacle and then crash landing back to earth.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty upset. I didn't watch the last 2 minutes. I just walked away and thought I'd take a breather before the review
fair
on the
call.
fan cams. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Well, obviously, like everybody else, really disappointed with the result and how we showed up in the first quarter with Jack Steele playing really well, Max King taking clunk and everything, and then our inside 50s were really good. We were lowering the eyes, and you had Ryan Burns and even Dean Kent kicking really well inside 50 in the first quarter, but then in the second quarter, I feel like when Max King went off, I feel like the momentum swung their way. They kind of had, I think it was their Jack Henry, was it? He was going up a bit forward and everything, but a lot of their players just started to get a bit more confidence because they weren't getting thrashed in their backline, and our midfielders were like, when we were kicking it to Membry in the forward line, they had one or two intercepts and kind of put our heads down, and it's kind of where we fell off, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you think we missed having a few more A-grade players outside of Steele that, like Geelong, had danger, lift and go to a next level in the last 10 minutes? Even Hawkins, I thought he picked his game up after halftime. And Steele was off for 10 minutes of that last quarter. What was that all about?
I know. I mean, Geelong have 10 A-graders. It's pretty unfair, but just players you would expect to step up, like Rowan Marshall, Brad Hill, and all that. They didn't really step up, and you had Seb Ross. Everybody's giving him a lot of hate about him and everything. But I feel like he was if you just exclude the Dangerfield incident, there's a lot of instances where he's the only one sprinting and going for that tackle or getting that hard ball and everything, and you have some other players just slacking off. Like Dan Butler wasn't good at all, and we classify him before the year as an A-grader because of his season last year. And Rowan Marshall, we classify him as an A-grader, and he's just so consistent, but he just got bullied by Reece Stanley, who was not really known to be a mobile ruckman, but just dominated him all around the ground, it felt like.
Yeah, how does Marshall go from dominating Hickey to making Stanley look like the best ruckman in the comp?
Yeah.
Was he just tired? We had Joyce in there, I think, for a few minutes just to give him a chop out, but I'm sure maybe Rowe probably played 85% game time minimum.
Yeah.
Without resting forward like we usually want him to. So I wonder if that was a factor, because Geelong, I think Radigalia, didn't he go? Oh, he was off for most of the second half, but I think for portions of the first half, he would have gone in the ruck just to chop out. Where does this leave us now? Just list-wise, team-wise, could you name more than 3 or 4 players on that field that you'd trade, that you shouldn't play a Saints game beyond 2021?
I could name a few. I feel like we use Seb Ross and such as a scapegoat, which is completely fine when we have to put up with this type of shit. But I reckon just you have your players like Dean Kent, where it's really annoying how they have really bad weeks and we have to put them in because of their injuries, and they bob up and have a really good game. And we're like, okay, well, our team's kind of settling down here. All our players are finding form. And then all of a sudden they just start doing really bad.
Yeah.
And we don't, and I feel like a lot of the fans don't know if we should get rid of them because they have that potential to, have a really high ceiling, but have a really, really bad floor.
That's a really good point.
I reckon the likes of Seb Ross, Dean Kent, even Jack Loney, I reckon, has to go out. We gave him a chance last year, but with his new contract, but he hasn't done anything this year. Even when he's come into the side, he's done jack shit.
Mm.
And yeah, those three. And I mean, who would you think is another one? I can't really think of the top of my head right now.
Who shouldn't play again?
Yeah, and should just go out the door.
Oh, well, yeah, you've covered off a few of them. I mean, I don't know how we go about getting rid of Loney and Kent, because then it kind of leaves just the two smalls. You always need,
Yeah.
like for these instances
Mm.
where we've missed Higgins for parts of the game or parts of the season, we need depth, and we don't really have
Yeah.
like a 19-year-old small forward that's
Yeah.
at Sandy. Maybe Gresh could play more forward
Mm.
next year when he's back, potentially.
Yeah. I felt as if this year I think we're 11th at the moment. We're probably going to slide down to 12th or 13th at the end of the year, in my
Mm.
opinion. And that gives us a top 7, 8 draft pick. And you look at, I don't know, I don't know if I could be wrong here, but in my opinion, I feel like you look at the Western Bulldogs, they won a premiership in 2016, right? And everybody's like saying they're going to be really good for the next few years. They don't do well. They draft the likes of Bailey Smith, Cody Waitman, Aaron Norton.
Mm.
They draft these players and they can really play different roles. Like Cody Waitman can play a bit of midfield and forward. Bailey Smith can do the same, primarily midfield. But I feel like just going out, getting a player who can play forward and midfield would really help us. I know we've got a lot of midfielders at the moment with Burns, Bartel, and also Connolly could eventually maybe go through there. I don't know. But like I feel like just a Cody Waitman like player, Cozzy Pickett, someone like that would really help, I reckon.
So you're of the belief that we need to draft, and if we
Yeah.
get pick 7 or 8, don't give that away for anything.
Yeah. Well, you look at Melbourne and Bulldogs, like
Hmm.
they fall off a little bit, and you have a lot of these informed players who are similar to Jack Steele's age and all that. And like Jack Viney is really similar to them for Seb Ross, and it's the same with like a couple others for the Bulldogs as well. Like they have those players who can get dropped, but we rely heavily on them because the coaches just like them so much. And if we just get like a Cozzy Pickett or like a Cody Waitman type player, it really brings a lot of like fresh mobility into the team, a lot of just spark and energy, and it really just like having a good head in the forward line like that would just really help, in my opinion.
The first quarter, we're 31-0 up, and we're
Yeah,
looking $1 million. Why did we look that good? Were we switched on, or do you think Geelong just weren't on yet? Because the second, like they kicked 2 goals in a row, from that point on, like the game was theirs. They just
yeah.
shifted back into their Geelong
Mm,
mode, chipped the ball around. We didn't know what to do. Do you
yeah.
think they were just surprised by how good we were in the first 10 minutes?
Well, I mean, you could say that as well, but
Hmm.
there's two ways you could look at it in different perspectives. You could look positively and just say that they weren't ready for us. But you could also say as well that they weren't really used to having that Tom Stewart out because he's been pretty fit all year.
Yeah.
And I feel like they had to adjust because he was a really late out yesterday. And they have, one day, not like one night actually,
Hmm.
and morning to prepare for someone to get in that role, which is so key for them because he's an All-Australian defender. In my opinion, it's a bit pessimistic, but I'd say that they weren't used to having Tom Stewart and having
Yeah.
that really good intercept marker down back. And that gave us a bit of leeway. And I feel like after quarter time and Max King going off to the bench for about 15, 20 minutes, it really just gave them a lot of confidence.
Yeah, it didn't help when King went off, especially when we were on top. And I think they
Yeah,
kicked 3-0 in that time where he went off the ground. And we just
yeah,
didn't really. I think we wanted to kick it long. We wanted to kick it to someone that could mark the ball. But when we looked forward, it's like Jack Higgins on a
yeah,
taller player. It's like, we can't do that. So again, is this another, is this more proof that Ratton doesn't really have a plan B? Because the second Geelong started chipping around, I was like, oh, like, what are we going to do to stop it? Are we going to play man on man? We just gave them space.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I reckon Plan B is. It's pretty hard to see what Plan B is against a lot of different teams because sometimes
Mm.
it comes off against your Richmonds and that, but then it doesn't come off against these teams who have high possession, like the Bulldogs, like the West Coast Eagles, like
Yeah.
the Cats. I don't feel like we really battle well with them. As soon as they get a hold of the game, they can really dictate. the pace and how they move the ball going forward, and how if they're going to use a corridor. I felt like in the first, I'd say quarter and half, and in second half, I'd probably say we protected the corridor amazingly. Like they were always trying to go there, and we got intercepts and everything. But it comes back to that confidence and that belief in the players that we've got someone down there to have that, that ability to take a massive mark and bring confidence to the forwards and the smalls and everything who can bring it to ground. And then there's no hate to Cooper Sharman, but like the group's not used to having someone who is so young and is a bit new to the group and probably struggles to, position himself a little bit when it comes, going down the line and everything, because I felt a little bit that he was getting a bit too much under the ball, and he wasn't really like clunking him or anything, which is, I mean, you got to cut him some slack, but I mean, we've had to cut everybody slack this year, so it's getting pretty annoying.
Yeah, we've always got that, like, oh, well, he's young, or oh, we're injured, that sort of excuse. But I feel like next year that's going to get thrown out the window. Like 2022, really, if we don't make finals next year, like top 6 with a fit team, I feel like Rats might find himself under pressure. But at this point, I feel like we've at least blooded some youngsters that are doing well.
Exactly.
Sharman's looking good. We've got Highmore in defence, and I thought we missed him, particularly that second half when they kept bombing it, and that hurt us.
Because Coffey would have to play on Radically if you saw that, which is just crazy, don't you reckon?
Yeah, and in my preview, I was like, great, we've got Highmore and Koff, and like the logic there is one of them might have to man up on one, but then that leaves another to float and be a third man up.
Yeah.
But you lose one, and then everyone's one-on-one, and it's like Dukes on Hawkins, Wilkie on Cameron, and Caulfield on Radicale. And if maybe they create a mismatch and you've got Caulfield on a Hawkins or something, and it's like, nah, this isn't going well for us. But now we've got Freo. So do we go for the win? I guess we do.
No, of course you have to. You don't just sit back down and just go, "Oh, season's over." But I've got the same feeling that what we did back in 2016. Like mathematically, we had a tiny chance. Like we still somehow have a chance. Like the slightest of chances. I think every team that's within the top 8, and like Richmond and Essendon, have to lose all their games, and they have to drop a lot of percentage. And then we have to win by like 100 points next week. And I'm just have a feeling that we're going to win by 100 points next week. Essendon kick a goal off the siren, and we finish 9th again.
Oh, I guess the only good thing about it is if Freo need to beat us to make finals, I hope we just stuff them up and just beat them and ruin their year as well. So I'll wrap it there. I'll wrap it up there, Lockie. Thanks for hopping on, mate.
Cheers to you.
A bit disappointing not to talk about a win, but hopefully next week.
Yeah, it's always nice to get on here and talk to people. Cheers, Jackie.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I'll chat to you next week. See ya. All right, that was Lockie. Now I reckon we're going to go with Mo. Let's get him on and get his thoughts, mate.
Hi, Jackie.
Talk to me.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I'm proud of the way that we stood up to Geelong, but I just think after that first quarter, I think it showed just how far, well, not how far we are, but how much we have to improve to get to that top level. I think, the way Geelong were able to control the game after quarter time and use their momentum and all that stuff to gain control over the game. I just think it showed that, we've got potential. We saw that last year, and we've got the potential to beat these teams. I mean, we were practically in front for 2.5 quarters of that game, and we just fell away at the end. So I'm proud, and but along with that proudness, there's also that frustration that seems to be seeping into a lot of us every week. So it is what it is, I guess.
How do we become one of those teams that we can trust every week that we know? Even when Geelong were 31 points down, they looked pretty calm.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just think, I guess this year we've had a lot of injuries and a lot of roller coaster rides over the season, and we haven't exactly had a consistent season in terms of having a full strength team. And you look at someone like Geelong, and all the good teams like Melbourne, Bulldogs, Port Adelaide every now and then. Whenever they get on a roll, it's always because they field roughly the same 22 every week.
Yeah.
And so I think that would help, but I think we also need to work on, for me, I think our composure and just our lapses in games. It's just a continuous thing that happens across games where it may not be so obvious to the eye, but you can just tell that the other team's wrestling back momentum, or, they're getting it back on their terms slightly. And I think we just need to fix up that. But the one thing that really annoys me is we still have some players playing that, or playing the way that someone like a Dusty plays, where they play like they're earning $1 million a year, and it's just these stupid little handballs over the top that, over the head kind of thing. Sometimes it works.
Who was it? You've got to name names.
I think Burns did it a couple times, but then again, he's a youngster, so you can't really go at him. But I mean, I just think it's these little things. To me, I feel like it's not so big as it was 2-3 years ago when we had Richo as coach. It's just these little things that we need to, I guess, kind of fit the pieces of the puzzle together, and I think will become more of a complete team. And that goes for like every club. So,
Yeah. When we were 31 up, did you still, and I mean, I always do, but did you think we were home? Because I kind of was like, still ages to go, they could still get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was out for the first quarter, so I didn't see much. I didn't see much of it, but I was keeping up with the scores. And when I got home, it was 31-12. I'm like, okay. But, I guess we've learned over this season that we can't trust the boys to hold on to a lead. And I mean, I feel like it's a bit harsh saying that, it was really disappointing having a 5-0 lead and then coughing it up, because we all know Geelong can kick 4 or 5 goals in the space of 5 minutes. So it's I feel like maybe we don't have to be that harsh, but yeah, it's definitely disappointing. And, I was looking forward to coming home and watching the rest of the game and, hopefully getting that win, but it just wasn't meant to be. So a bit frustrating.
If you were part of the coaches set up in the off season, what would you do? What do you think is the most important thing we need to get right in the off season to have a big year? Is it medical, getting players back? Is it trading out? Is it getting certain players in?
Yeah, look, I think it's a mixture of all those things. I think we need to get rid of a few players. I've liked Ross this season. I think Seb's been he's been a pretty consistent player for the most part. But I think players like him, such as, I don't know, maybe a Kent or a Dunstan or something, that they just don't provide enough class and class and, I guess, a bit of poise around the ball when we need them. So I think we need to trade a few of those players who play that style away. And then I think, for me, what's shown over the season is we need another key defender, and we need another. I'm not sure if we need another midfielder, but I think we need another genuine small forward. I think as well. I just think with the inconsistencies we've had with our forward line this season, with Loney coming in for 2 games and like kicking 5 goals one game, and then having 6 possessions the next game, and Butler hasn't been the Butler of last year. So I think we need a few more key players. They don't have to be the $1 million players or the star players of the competition, but just some key pillars that we can rely on every week to like a small forward that can get 15, 20 disposals a week and kick a couple goals, and then a defender that we know that can lock down and I guess have this connection with Dougal and Callum Wilkie. We need someone like that. Injuries, again, that would help if we didn't have as many as we did. But I don't know. I think our work rate as well. I think we need to really have a hard preseason. I think watching the game tonight, we just got outworked, but by the end of it, you could see that. And again, that comes along with the composure that we need and the class that we need. You can just tell that Geelong, as the commentators were saying, they're such a professional outfit. They know when to work really hard, but then they also know when to take the pace off the game and everything, and still work hard and get to contest. But they can tear the pace off the game and then put the pace back on. So I think it's a mixture of quite a few things.
Yeah. I think there was it in the last quarter where Steele was off for like 10 minutes, and then the center bounce, our setup was like Jones, Hanbury, Dunstan, or Jones, Hanbury, Burns or something, and I'm like, that's not our strongest 3 mids with Marshall at an important part of the game. You would have liked, like, imagine like Gresh, Steele, Jones or something, like at full strength.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've really missed Gresh this season. That clearance work that he's able to produce and execute has really hindered our performance. We couldn't really do anything when the ball's on the other side of the ground and Steele doesn't have the chance to come on. That's bad luck, and that's just the way the game was flowing at that point. But it wasn't ideal.
So how do you see this year, like overall? Is it there's more? I mean, we're not going to make finals, obviously, but there's still good to come from it. So are you just seeing it as like a learning year, and then next year we're back, or do you still think there's no guarantees?
Well, definitely it's a complete fail from what we produced last year. But I think the positives we can take out is our youngsters, Burns, Connolly, Cooper Sharman, who's been surprisingly really, really good the first 3 or 4 games he's played. And also post the bye, Max King as well. He's really found his form, and it's scary to think about what he could do in the next 4 or 5 years. So
plus Ben King.
Yeah, exactly. That's if we can get him over the off season, we don't need anyone else.
Here's a question: what would you trade to get Ben King? Say we could get him in this off season. I know people don't want us to trade our first round draft pick. But if Ben King was available, would you give that away?
Ben King,
it'd be like a first and then a future first plus a player.
Yeah, there'd have to be a few players in there. Well, I guess it really depends how much we want Ben King and how much and that also coincides with how much knowledge we have about him, and his obviously we have Max, so Max knows everything about him. But if we're seriously wanting to go after him, we'll need to look into trading. I think we'll need to trade someone that we all love and who's a great club man, along with a few draft picks. So we're gonna have to make that compromise if we do go after Ben.
I did hear someone flagged that Josh Battle was potentially looking around, and that would be a huge loss.
That would be.
Imagine Battle goes to Gold Coast to play that forward role, and then Ben comes over. There's a few little things that could make it happen, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to see. What did you think of Hanbury's game? Because I know especially my dad. My dad's like super pessimistic about him because he's come to the club and he's done. I think it's fair to say that even though the elimination final and the GWS game, he was really, really good. But I think it's fair to say, as an overall judgment, that he's kind of done jack shit since we've got him. I think, in my opinion. So, what are your thoughts about the way he performed?
Because he had 7 touches in the first half, and then he ended up with 18.
That's not too bad.
At 77% efficiency. So I think that's a pretty good return against Geelong.
Yeah.
I thought his last quarter was really good. He tried to, he got in, he played more as a ruck rover, like back to his usual position. And he tried to will us forward, but it just wasn't happening. Like he'd get the clearance, but we just weren't running hard enough. And Geelong were just sweeping everything up, and that just killed any momentum we had. But yeah, I mean, I had to go through a lot of comments during the week, like especially after it came out that he was going to play ahead of Bytel. People were really pissed off.
Yeah, fair enough.
But in a crunch game like this, to have a big body like him, and I thought his kicking was pretty good. Like he was hitting players on the chest.
Yeah, I think he performed quite well, but it's just.
But I know what you mean by the lack of return, but
yeah.
It's the same as just sitting here and arguing that we picked up Billings before Bont or whatever the hell the argument is. It's happened, so we have to deal with it. So no point complaining, otherwise we'll just go crazy over it.
Well, I hope if we do go to the draft this off season, I hope we have we have the right skill and the right knowledge to pick someone up that will actually benefit us, rather not saying that Billings or someone like a McCartan instead of Petrarca hasn't benefit us at times, but someone that we can a good youngster that can really stay at the club and develop quickly, and we can get him into the starting 22. So
wow. Have you got any big plans for the rest of your weekend? Outside of obviously today.
Well, yeah, tomorrow's actually my 18th birthday, so.
There you go. Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you. So a bit disappointing to sleep on this one tonight, and along with lockdown, it's not the greatest, not the greatest thing, but I guess life will go on, and there's always next week, even though
there's always next week,
next
year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping that next week we can just forget about everything and maybe bring in Bytel, bring in all the youngsters that we've developed over the year, just bring them in, and just see how it goes. Because I mean, we could potentially and we can potentially stop Freo from making finals. So there's still lots to play for in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hope you have a good 18th, mate. It's actually my mum's birthday tomorrow as well, so you've reminded me. It's not her 18th, but I'm sure she'll have a big one as well. But hope you have a good one, and
you too.
I guess potentially we'll chat next week after the Freo game on fan cams as well. All right, mate.
Hopefully that's a win.
No worries. Chat to you soon.
Jake. See ya.
All right, next up, who we got here? We've got a few still waiting. Let's hit up Sam.
Jakey,
Sam.
that one hurt. That one really hurt, man.
Yep.
It's just the St Kilda tease, isn't it? You kick 5 unanswered goals in the first quarter. Any team, any other team but St Kilda takes that into into the second quarter and goes, all right, let's improve on this. Let's keep this going.
Yeah.
But it's just the St Kilda tease, isn't it? As you said before, I don't think if you're an actual St Kilda supporter, no matter how big the margin is that you're in front by, whether we're 80 points in front, there's still always going to be an ounce of we're St Kilda. In my opinion, if you're an honest St Kilda, a diehard St Kilda fan, you know that it's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You knew Geelong were gonna. People are messaging me like, I can't believe we let Geelong into this game. I'm like, you knew Geelong were gonna have passages in the game. They're too good not to. I was just hoping for once there weren't going to be goals, not like end of quarter goals. How often does that happen? Late goals in the quarter, just to get the opposition up and about, just to give them some confidence.
Guaranteed. The junk time goals is our specialty, really, in my opinion. It was a disappointing game. I was actually quite off it once the siren went, but sitting in here waiting has calmed me down a bit and made me relax a bit. But look, it was a good performance. I think it was just, you could sense them coming the whole game. You just go, all right, another shocking inside 50 here. We've just coughed up another chance. I just think we lack class. We know that there's a lot of talk about, some of the guys before were talking about getting a nice small forward or whatever. But if we can't get the ball out of the middle, what's a small forward going to do? You know what I mean? We need to sort this midfield out. In my opinion, I think we actually have some class players. I think we've got some very good players that we need to repurpose. For example, I'd like to get your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we have a full healthy list after a big preseason next year. Which I'll add, we need to have a big preseason next year. I think we've got, a couple of the younger kids like your Caulfield, your Ben Longs, etc., Dan Butler. We made it to a final last year. We had a great year, new coach, everything's fresh, feeling good. I think they may have drank the Kool-Aid a little bit and went, look, I'm pretty, what a great year I've had. Maybe relaxed a little bit in the preseason. And first few rounds hit and we find ourselves in the position we're in. Everyone's going, oh shit, like I didn't see this coming, and maybe we haven't actually done the work that we needed to do. And I unfortunately spend too much of my time on big footies. I'm always checking the in the nose. I'm always up and about in there. But I think that was a similar feeling that some of the in the nose they were saying. The training standards aren't, or over the preseason weren't necessarily. There were some people saying they went too hard. There were some people saying we didn't do enough. But yeah, I'd like your opinion on full, fresh list, healthy list next year. How do you fit in players like Highmore, Caulfield into that back line when, in my opinion, we've missed pattern this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jimmy Webster's done a very good job, in my opinion. If you look back a few years, when he's under all this injury, he's been battling these injuries, we probably looked at him and said he'll never play AFL again, really. And yet he's got himself fit and he's been able to slot into that back line. Some of his kicking this year has been fantastic. If we remember when he was at his peak a couple of years ago, that left foot drilling of the back line, connecting the back line going forward with his passing has been an asset. And he definitely does that on a week-to-week basis. But I think we need to repurpose a few players. I think we need to find a way to, why can't Caulfield, after a big preseason and some big training, try and become a Paddy Cripps? Why can't we run him through the midfield or, and keep put Highmore in Caulfield's spot of last year, where he can take those intercept marks and things like that. Vital, will obviously come in and hopefully get a good run at it. He's got fast hands, smooth, fast hands, good user of the ball. He's a young kid. I don't think he's really played many VFL games, if I'm correct. I think he's only played like 4.
He's played this year or just in general?
I think in general. Because he had his back issues and then couldn't really, because of COVID, they didn't have a proper VFL comp.
Yeah, so majority of it would be this year, I would have thought. Maybe that's why they haven't played him. I mean, I think he got 4 or 5 games in a row in the AFL at the start of the year, and he showed some stuff, but at the same time, he also had games where he had like 4 touches and didn't impact the game. So I think we, as Saints fans, are always very much looking at him doing really smart stuff and not the whole game. Like, great, he spun out of traffic and he kicked and hit Max King on the lead. Beautiful. But then for the next 20 minutes, he did nothing. So it's like, you got to balance it a little bit.
Yeah.
But you make an interesting point, repurposing other players, because I was thinking, like, a few people were messaging me after the game and saying, Brad Hill, he's had a bit of a shocker, which is fair enough. He's had a very good very good 5-6 weeks, really. I think he's lifted since the bye like the team. Do you think halfback flank like that is really where he's going to stay? Because I feel like if you got Sinks there, it's kind of like Highmore and Koff, right? Yeah. Do we have the 2 each, the 2 runners and the 2 interceptors, or do we pick the best 2 of each, put those 2 in defense, and then get the other 2 in different positions?
Yeah, and Sinks has to get a mention. If he's not top 3 in our best and fairest, I'll be shocked.
How good is he?
Sinclair is and I've said it for years, Sinclair is our best user of the ball. I actually rate him higher than Hilly, because his ability he's got so much leg speed that the fact that moving him back, there's so many moments where he's now starting to take intercept marks and take the marks while the big boys like Doogs and Wilkes are trying to worry about spoiling. And he's just kind of floating around, ready for that quick get out of the back, handball, kick, whatever. He's definitely one of our best players. But for starters today, Hill had 9 touches. And I think, as you mentioned, he's had a fantastic last few weeks. The poor guy copped so much criticism this year.
Yeah.
And he's found a way every week to kind of get back up and put on a much better performance. And he's been really good the last few weeks. But unfortunately, when Brad Hill has 9 touches of the football, I don't think St Kilda comes away with the 4 points.
Do you think a lot of that was to do with the way Geelong play as well?
I'd say so. I mean, if you look at their disposals, they had 400 disposals to our 296.
Shit.
So they had so much more of the ball than us. I haven't seen numbers like that for a bit, really. I think in general gameplay, they were all over us. If you don't look at that first quarter, but it's an interesting. I think you're right. Like Hill was brought in to play the wing. I would want Brad Hill on the wing, kicking the ball inside 50. If I'm being honest, I think that's where he needs to be playing.
You think about it. Our best kicks in the team, a lot of them, Webster, Sinclair, Hill. Where do they play, mate?
Backline.
And what's our issue most of the time this year? Kicking where?
Kicking inside 50.
So wouldn't it make sense? I'm not a coach or anything. I'm not a genius. I'm a godfather, but I'm not a genius. Getting one of these guys and getting them to kick inside 50. We've got Dunstan and Seb Ross kicking inside 50 more than Brad Hill and more than Jack Sinclair. Like you said, 2 of our best kicks in the team.
Luke Dunstan's inside 50 kicking is really hurting us.
There was one. Was it in the 4th quarter?
Where
he just shanked it to Marshall.
That was the cherry. That was the cherry on top for his horrible inside 50 kicking. I mean, we know that's not his strength, right?
Yeah.
And the coaches know that. Everyone knows that. But then why is that our option? How are we going to win games if we know that, all right, he's probably not our best inside 50 user,
but yet he's still doing it. And we don't seem to have another option.
Yeah.
I will add just quickly, I don't miss Billings. I don't miss Jack Billings at all.
Huge call, but I do agree.
I like the last few weeks, despite a loss today, I haven't been looking for him or thinking about players I'd swap into the team, and the name Billings hasn't jumped out to me like, damn, we're really missing him. It just hasn't. If I was the club, I would try and. I mean, I just think we need to move on from the Richo era a little bit. I think we've brought in so many players that are better than that era, and that was a horrible time period for the club. And I think the sooner we can move on from the players that were kind of around that era, your Seb Rosses, your Billings. I mean, there's a reason why we're talking about them up on the trade table. We're not talking about moving Sinks or even Mackenzie. I love DMAC. I always send him a cheeky message on Instagram after every game and say best on ground, 3 votes.
Legend.
But you look at those blokes like Sinks and DMAC. They've literally changed their career based on hard work and not really settling. Like Sinclair was just meant to be Billings' mate, who was pretty decent. He had an okay role back in the Richo era. Now Sinks is like probably one of the first picked. If Sinclair fit, pick him. Sweet. DMAC, you're going to get hard tackling, pressure, and he's an athlete. I believe we picked DMAC based when a lot of the recruiting agency and like the list managers, it was popular to recruit athletes. How everyone was either you recruit an athlete or you recruit a footballer or whatever. DMAC's an athlete, and he's had to work on his game to get it to the point where it is now. He's an athlete, but now he can actually play football. But I want your opinion. Back on that earlier question on how you fit in. I could talk to you for a bit. I got a few things I want to talk about. How you fit in Hunter Clark, which obviously we need to give him more midfield minutes. How do we fit in Vital if Dunstan goes? Do we repurpose a Koff? What's your thoughts on the midfield? Obviously, you got Ronnie Burns as well.
I guess the one player that might find it tricky to get into the team when we've got all those players back would be Connolly, I just imagine. Although I love his game, and he's one of those players that we talked about, probably like a Sinclair and like a Hill. He can kick the footy, and he's got leg speed. So there's always a chance that you could push even both Sinks and Hill up the ground and have a Connolly learn off half back, because that people tend to think that that's the easiest position to ease into footy. Gresham will be back. Hunter Clark. There's 2 there that will be future stars for us. I'm imagining that Seb Ross and Dunstan won't be best 22 next year. We might have to look at the way the Dogs do it. I don't watch too much of the Dogs, but they've got a stacked midfield, like too many to put in there at the same time. So what do they do? How do they manage it? Do they put them all forward? Because I feel like that's what they do. They don't really have, like Mitch Wallace. They don't play him. He's retired or something now, I'm pretty sure. But they don't have a dedicated small forward like we do. We seem very insistent on playing Kent, playing a Higgins, playing a Butler. 3. I've always thought we play best when we play with 2. But maybe you have Butler and Higgins, and then you rest a mid. You don't have Kent.
You'd have to imagine that position. Surely Kent's position is Gresh's when he comes back.
Absolutely.
I mean, surely you've got a forward line of, when it comes to smalls, if you've got Butler and Higgins and Gresh floating around, knowing that Gresh will do swap between the midfield as well. You take that any day and you go, that's pretty exciting. I think there was talk about having a Cozzy Pickett or a Waitman. Cozzy Pickett's incredible, and I love his X factor. And that's when I was Devo. I was probably the only person in Australia that was sad that Matty Parker got axed, because I like a bit of a rough nut. We are a very soft club, right? There's not a lot of players that you look at our list, and
it's the same reason we play teams like Port and we instantly think, oh, big men, bit rough, bit tough. There's a bit of fear element there. I don't reckon
too.
any Geelong, Port, and
West Coast
maybe not
too.
And West Coast. You think of the big manly bodies and just attitudes and whatever. We don't have that, and I don't think any team would ever look at their upcoming fixture for St Kilda and go, all right, this is going to be a big challenge this week. I've got a bit of fear in me about this. We're soft.
Mate, our backline doesn't even have a big body.
Yeah.
Like that's usually your fullback. Even Dukes, no offense, Dukes is a superstar for us. Today I thought he had a great game. He threw his body at every ball that came inside 50. But even when you look at him, you're like, I'm not afraid of him. If you look at some other fullbacks in the comp or even just teams in general, you're right. They're big. Saints footy is uncontested footy in a way. It's fast. It's handballs. It's not smashing blokes, which is clearly what you want. You want blokes smash. Ben Long brings it when he plays.
And Ben Long is one of my favourites.
Yeah.
I'm quite sad for Ben Long that he wasn't able to take last year's work to another level this year and keep a consistent spot of those sort of performances, because that was my thing. Ben Long, Matty Parker, they have that X factor ability to turn a game and do something unpredicted, and they've got a bit of that Cozzy Pickett, Waitman vibe. And we haven't had anyone like that really, and Butler was a little bit like that last year, and obviously he's got a different role. He's purely they're really just looking at his pressure now. I think it's like if Butler plays a pressure game rather than get out the back and kick goals, I think that's where he's at the moment. But you bring Gresh back in, and all of a sudden Gresh along with Higgins and Butler, that's enticing. And I'll say Sharman, for someone who's only played, a handful of AFL games, no preseason, literally thrown into the deep end, he would be making a lot of other AFL forwards, go, oh, hang on a minute. And he's fast too. I know there was a few that didn't rate what he was doing today, based on some comments, but he gets the ground balls. If you've noticed, a lot of these quick handballs off, and he's getting to the right spots and getting the ball out and scooping it to other people. Big forwards don't tend to do a lot of that.
No, he's got the mobility. He's good beneath his below his knees, but he played against Carlton, basically just the late third, fourth quarter. He kicked 2.
Yep.
He's played the next week, he's kicked 2, and today he's kicked 2. So he's a multiple goal kicker in his first 2.5 games. He's kicked 6 goals in 2.5 games. That's all he could not have done any more. And his first goal today was probably better than last week's. He's kicked it from outside 50.
He's a very sharp shooter, and I hope that we don't St Kilda him. I hope we we leave him how he is, and we say, whoever taught you how to kick, let's leave it that way, rather than putting the St Kilda curse on him. But can we talk about Maxi King?
His first quarter was juicy.
He's really becoming the player. It's that this last 5 weeks that we have been looking for, or hoping to see down the track. He is so close. He would have probably torn this game apart today if he wasn't coming in with that groin or abductor injury or whatever. But I'll put this out there to anyone who looks at Max King and gets excited and they love him. Why would you not want 2 of him? Right? There's a potential. You know what I mean? If anyone can actually sit and tell me that they don't want Ben King as well, right? I understand the desires for other positional players and getting what we need, whatever. But if we have an opportunity to get 2 of Max Kings, don't you think that would be ridiculous?
You would do anything. And I was reading on Big Footy, and someone posed a scenario on how to get Ben King. I might have the screenshot here, but he basically listed out like possible trades that would happen to get it done. And I thought it was fairly accurate. He said, my understanding of the trade already organized for next year are as follows. Ben King for this year's first pick, next year's first pick, and Luke Dunstan. that would get it done. I think instead of Dunstan, it would have to be like a Billings or a Battle, maybe. Then they said Jack Billings to Hawthorn for the start of a second round compo, Josh Battle for a late second and a fourth to North Melbourne, and then Ben Long to Carlton for a third rounder. Leaves us going into the draft with pick 21 from Billings, then 2 third rounders and 3 fourth rounders. So I thought that was actually a pretty interesting scenario.
What do you think about Battle? What do you think about trading Battle? Because he's 21, isn't he, or 22?
Battle, I look at Sharman, I'm like, Battle could do that, and he's bigger already. Why hasn't he been given that position? We're playing him on a wing. We're playing him at just everywhere except the position that I think he's best at. And I've heard that he's looking around, just not actively looking to leave, but he's keeping it open. And if he goes to another team like North, he could play next to Larkey, next to Zerha, and that forward line is decent. I don't understand why we haven't given him that position. You and King are our twin towers, and Membry's going to kind of roam between the arcs where we need him to. He's going to go back, and we're going to have you and King and Marshall resting there as our talls. And that's a good forward line. But we just haven't done that.
If he played for the Pies, if Josh Battle played for Collingwood, for example, he would be there full forward week in, week out.
Absolutely.
He would be getting a game every week at Collingwood is there, and I think if I was him, I would look at that as well and go, why am I on a wing? Put me there. Money. And exactly. And he probably, I just want the West Coast effect. I want, right, let's think about what we do when we look at team selection for West Coast. We go, how are we going to stop Kennedy and Darling? Oh, and there's Oscar Allen too, or whatever. I want 2 Kings. I want the rest of the competition to go, shit, how are we going to stop the 2 Kings?
2 Kings and the Sharmanator.
You know what I mean? Because, Sharman, you would think if he comes on to be the player that we're seeing very early signs of, Membry's not going to be there forever. If you have, and obviously Rowe, where do you think the ruck sits based on next year, right? Do you keep Rowe as the single one-out ruckman, or do you think, you still need him forward?
No, well, I think Paddy will play 1 more year.
Yep.
So, I think we'd go back to the rotating Paddy and Marshall, but then after that, it depends on how well Max Heath goes. I'd love to see how he goes next year, because from all reports, he's a big boy already. He's built. He plays like Marshall. Yeah, he's huge. He's physical. He can go forward and hit the scoreboard. So I'd love to get games into him where we can. So if Sharman doesn't play 1 week for some reason, get Heath in, put him in that position, and then put him in the ruck for a couple of centre bounces, see how he goes. But he needs to learn off Paddy. And then after that, it could be Max Heath and a Marshall, but it'd be more Marshall rucking than not. So maybe 65-35 if I had to pick. But next year, I imagine Paddy would come in and we'd go back to that dual setup like we've always, we wanted so much this year, but we just haven't had a chance.
Yeah. Quick one for you. Based on trading and the draft, what are you hoping to see in terms of because I have an opinion of, as we've seen in the past, and we can't keep looking at, in the past because we'll never progress, but we know that there's no confirmation that picking up early draft picks or whatever is going to, choosing the right person. There's no guarantee with that. What do you do? Do you, I know we've got a couple NGA Academy prospects that look pretty good, which will cost us nothing. What would be your ideal movements when the trade period kind of opens up and everything like that?
Ben King. And I don't care too much for the small forward position. I think we're okay there. I think if anything, it's just getting rid of a couple of players that have had a chance and hasn't worked out, and putting Gresh back in there and tweaking a few things, maybe even Steele resting there more, because Steele is phenomenal forward. When he goes there, he hits the scoreboard. Put him there more. We don't do that enough. Like a Danger or a Dusty type role. Give him the goal square. He'll make it happen. But I think we need more midfield class. So whether that's a player like I think Constable's not really working out at Geelong again, even though last year we wanted him, so many other clubs wanted him. Geelong kept him. They haven't even played him. So I'd love to go for someone like that that's established, that's been in the AFL system. He's coming from a team that knows how to win, a system that is successful. He can bring that to us. And he's also only 21 or something. So it's not like, we're giving away a first rounder to get a 28-year-old, like some people think we're doing all the time, and they melt because of it. But I think another key defender, like a young one would be good. I don't think Claverino, on the podcast, Marshy and Joycey reckon that his bags are packed and that it's not looking like it's going to work out for him. So I think we need someone there.
That's strange to me because they've kept him on the list for so long, and I thought it was to kind of develop and get him to a point where he's played some games this year where I thought he didn't look out of place. And you kind of look at them and you go, he's a young kid. Obviously, he's been in the system for a while, but I would imagine that he would be okay, as he gets a little older. He's a decent-sized kid. He's not super thin. He's obviously got the height. I think it's going to take a bit to recover from losing someone like a Jakey Carlisle. It would be crazy to think what it would be like if he was fit and in that back line, with dudes. But you're right. I think some.
It's our biggest off season in a long time. Now we have to get it right.
It would be disappointing, and I said this. I actually made a post about this on Big Footy, but there's a lot of talk about how we've had a very difficult season this year, and we keep talking about the fixture and how it was just so unfair that we had to play all these top 8 teams, but we lost the easy games. We lost the easy winnable games that we looked at the start of the season and went, all right, well, it's all good. We've got this harder fixture. At least we can win these ones. And we did it ourselves, for starters. Losing to Essendon by 80 points or however much that flogging was. The Adelaide game has already come back to haunt us now. We lose that game with a minute to go, and that was almost our season stamped there, even though we were still fighting for it. You lose to Carlton by 60 points or whatever. Like, what do you mean? But yet we're still going to come out and beat Brisbane up there. And, I think that's the most disappointing thing for me is, we have used a bit of excuses, injuries. Yes, we have been plagued by them, but these games we should have been winning, we weren't winning. And as we know as Saints supporters, when there's something important on the line,
don't watch.
We're not getting the 4 points, are we?
No.
So that's been a huge takeaway for me of disappointment. Like, I think if all our best 22 is on the park and with a fit preseason, even without changing, this is just my opinion, but I think we do have the players and the idea of the game style to move up the ladder. Like, we're sitting here after a horrible year. We've all said it's been a pretty crazy year of disappointment, yet we were still only a game out of the 8. So what does a good year look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it just takes a bit of luck and just a tweak or two. Structurally, I think we're okay. There's just a few players that are going to be shipped out. We'll bring some class in, hopefully. And then from there, it's just getting players back that we need. Patton's important. Gresha's important. Seeing if we can get one good year from Hanbury, because that's helpful. I thought he was all right today. So, I guess we're just going to get through the next week, not think too hard about the fact that there's no finals this year because last year was so much fun, but just try and beat Fremantle now and see what happens in the trade window.
Yeah, for sure. I'll leave it there so I don't chew your ear off. But quick shout out to you and the podcast boys. Very, very enjoyable to listen to the podcast, and I'm enjoying all the production upgrades on your end. I can definitely see the hard work you're putting in. Mics, videos, lots of the streaming stuff. It's good shit. So I appreciate that.
Cheers, mate. Well, Yeah, hopefully Marshy and Joycey are feeling all right. I haven't checked in on them. Hopefully they're not too upset, but we'll see on Tuesday.
I want in. If any of them can't make a podcast, I'm subbing in.
Mate, you speak nicely. You got a good voice, so I reckon you got a chance. I'll keep that in mind. All right, mate.
All right. Good to chat,
Cheers,
man.
mate. See you,
Stay
Zane.
easy.
All right. Isaac, time for your thoughts, mate. G'day, mate.
Hello, how's it going?
Long day, mate. Long day. How are you going?
Very disappointed with the result, you know. The most disappointing thing is I think I missed basically all the good bits of the game. I was out riding for the whole of first quarter and got home 5. My dad said we're 5 goals up, and I'm like, oh god. And then Geelong kicked the first of the second quarter. I'm like, yep, here we go again. It's coming. We're gonna choke again. Like, it's just typical Saints, you know. You can never feel comfortable whether you're 5 goals up or 10 goals up. I never feel comfortable after it all started with North Melbourne round 1 last year, Freo. Adelaide this year. It's just, you know.
Yeah. How do you change that? What do you do?
We're going to put ourselves in a position, then we can't be losing those type of games. Like last year, we could have finished top 4 if we beat Adelaide and Freo. Like, that's just the difference in the end, you know. Yeah,
and the difference this year isn't top 4; it's top 8, isn't it? It's the season that's done because of it. So what do you do? I'd love to have a scenario next year where anytime we're more than 4 goals up in a game, we do not lose that game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
No team's getting back into the game once we're 4 goals up. This year, it's happened too many times.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're going to be a good team, if you're 4 goals up in a game at any stage of the game, you cannot lose that game. If you want to, like, if the Saints' goals is to make top 8 to push for that top 4, like, if you're going to be a side pushing for that, like, if you're 4 goals up, you cannot be losing that game. It's as simple as that. Like,
yeah, well, when you think about it, sorry to jump in, man, but when you think about it, what if it was flipped in the first quarter? What if it was 31-0 to Geelong? Think about that. Are we getting back into the game the way they got back into the game?
I don't see it happening. No, it's just...
It'd get worse.
It would get 100% worse.
Yeah.
Like, you know, our heads drop. Our heads would have dropped. Our heads would have just... All the confidence would have just been straight out the window from last week, and it would have been another probably 100-point battering. But, you know, I feel like just letting them get those 2 goals late at the end stages of that final quarter, even if we kept them to 1, had that 4-goal lead. If we kept them to 0, unbelievable. We go into that second quarter, our heads are like held high. Our confidence is 100%. And we go into that second quarter and probably go on and extend that lead. But once Geelong get those 2 goals, they come in, it's back to 3 goals here. We're a real chance. Get the first one, which they do. It's back to 2 goals, and then they kick on, and just their quality just pulls through.
Do you think that was I've talked to a few people already, but I guess we haven't really covered, like, what was the difference between us and Geelong? Was it just a couple of top-end players that they have that we don't? Is it the structure? What stood out to you in the second half?
Obviously, you've mentioned that the umpiring wasn't great, but again, I'm not going to blame that 100%. No. But, you know, it's just we need to be better communicated across the field, you know. Like, if you look at those stages in the game, that Dangerfield goal right at the end, like, there was no communication there. They're all standing there looking at each other.
They were watching him.
If you're going to, like, go inside 50, just do the little shit kick, then you're going to have to, like, make sure everyone's on. You can't just, like, chip it in and hope, like, you know. I feel like you just need to be more switched on throughout the game and just be better set up, better communicated. And I feel like Geelong just absolutely nailed that in the second half and just ran away with the game in the end.
Yeah, well, I guess in other games gone by that we've been up in, we've choked, right? Like the Adelaide game, we just stopped. I didn't feel like today we just stopped. Do you know what I mean? I think even in the third quarter, they hit the front, but then I think Crouch kicked a goal, and we just stayed with them. We hit the front. It ebbed and flowed a little bit. But the last quarter to me was the most frustrating because I don't know if it was, what's his name? Cam Mooney. He was special comments or something. He said that the Saints are going to go for it. Like he heard from the coaches or from the huddle that we're going to go for it. We're just going to die trying, basically. Just throw it all out there and see what happens. I didn't see any of that. Did you? I didn't feel like we went all out.
No, I feel like we were just too like conservative mode, like just try, like, oh, let's stop them from scoring and hope to get a lucky goal in the break. Just if you're behind in the game, if you're playing for finals, you know your season's do or die. You've just got to go for it. I would have been more happy for the Saints to go for that win and to lose by 6 goals, 7 goals, than to just sit back and just hope and just like try to get that goal and to lose by 2. Like, if we go for it, then you're better going out trying than going out without even giving it a crack, if you know what I mean.
100%, I agree with you there, because the way we didn't go out swinging. Their last goal, Dougal Howard goes for this crazy across goal pass, turns it over, and then Cameron snaps it on his right foot when he's done nothing for a quarter. We give him a goal. It's not like we tried to go through the guts and tried to play fast and take it on. He's just gone a hack ball across goal, not in the center, not down the line, and that's turned it over. That was the worst way for them to seal the game for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, I got up and just walked away after that. I was pretty pissed off. What do you take from this year? I know that we've got one more game, so fan cams next week will be a big one because we'll talk more about the year and what it means to everyone and where we're going to go. But from this week, from what you saw today, give me the top 2 strengths of our team that we can go into next year and really try and get into the 8 again and be a challenger, and give me your 2 issues that we need to fix. So first, give me your 2 strengths of our current team.
I feel like the main positive from this year was getting games into the players like Burns and Connolly. I've been disappointed to see that Bytel hasn't got more game time, but I feel like with the injuries, obviously there's nothing we can do about that, but getting those youngsters in so we have those more depth and have AFL games into those young players when the A graders come back next year. I feel like that is massive. I feel like King's been an absolute, especially in the last month and a half of footy, he's been absolutely outstanding. Like his run and jump at it, if he gets a run and jump at the footy and starts getting on fire, then he's absolutely unstoppable. So, if we can, if they can go into next year doing that, then I reckon if we can get another 40 goals out of him next year, or even more,
we'll get more,
which would be great. Then that would take us an absolute long way to making finals next year.
Yeah, and your 2 big fixes that we need to get done in the off season before we can really believe in finals again.
I feel like we need to get rid of some players that just aren't like gonna do much for us. Like I've been listening to the other streams that you've been on with the other people, and players like the Dunstan, the Ross, the Billings. I'm not sure how you feel about this one, but I would be getting rid of Dunstan or Ross before I get rid of Billings. That's just my personal opinion, but I feel like if we can get rid of one of like Dean Kent or Ben Long, I feel like we could get like a reasonable sort of pick for him or something like that. Then I feel like we could do that. But I feel like one of Dunstan or Ross has to go, and I wouldn't be surprised if both of them go, to be honest. I would rather let both of them go and get like something, maybe even Battle go, and then use those picks for Ben King to come in and add like a third threat down forward. Because if we have 2 threats of Max and Ben King down forward, then like, you know, you've been speaking to the other people, like who doesn't want that in their team?
No
like
defense
the
could
Kennedy and
stop
Darling
it.
effect at West Coast.
Hmm.
Like it's massive, you know. So I feel like we can just get a play like that, get another, like, I feel like another one that we really need is a big body defender, though, because like Dougal Howard is good, but most teams these days don't just have that one power forward that they can play on. Like Wilkie's coming through, but then who else do you have in that defense that can like play on a guy like a third forward, like an Oscar Allen or someone like that, or Radigalia today? Like, if we can get another defender in that's like Dougal Howard or has some sort of the effect of Dougal Howard, that'll go like a long way. I'm not saying that Webster or any of them have done a bad job this year, but you know, I feel like it'll be good to get like a key defender in to help that out.
Absolutely. I think Joyce is pretty good. I think he's actually showed a bit in the games that he's had this year. A bit unfortunate. I don't know what happened to him late in the game and then he went down, but him, Dukes, maybe a young key back, either draft-wise or we get one in from another team that he's just not getting minutes would be good. Like Dougal Howard wasn't getting the minutes that he wanted at Port Adelaide and we were lucky enough to get him.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe that could be pretty handy. I think we don't really need to trade or adjust who we've got in defense. Either just get one established player or a young player in and then kind of work with that. I think the main bulk of the off-season trading and adjusting is going to be the midfield because that just, to me, it just doesn't fit right. We've got too many of the same player. Zach Jones is a good point of difference. Gresham is when he plays. Hanbury, we don't know what we're going to get from him. Dunstan and Ross work hard, but they don't, you know, they're not the finishers. They don't have that kicking efficiency that I think we want, we need. And if we do keep Billings, he's not going to go into the middle and be that player that we want. He's either going to be maybe a small forward again. I've always said that JB is more damaging in a forward pocket than on the wing. He played there when he started and he kicked 30 odd goals in a year. So I think we've got the tools. I just think some of them aren't in the right spots. They're not playing yet. They're not in form. They're not experienced yet. There's just a few things that I think will resolve themselves kind of over time. But this year's been a bit of a tough one to take. So give me one word to describe today.
Oh God.
Just one word. Is it disappointing? Is it a letdown? Is it,
I feel like it's just
gallant?
Yeah, I would use the word disappointing, you know, like we were there, we were in the game in that first quarter. If we continued that, we win today, we go into Freo next week and finals is very much a possibility. But, you know, once we've lost today, it's just gone out the window. And, you know, we've just got to move on from that. We've got to go into off season. We've got to get all our players back, get a few trades in, maybe get a few youngsters in the draft, I reckon, and just completely move on to next year and hopefully break into that 8 again.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. But first, enjoy the rest of your weekend and hopefully we'll chat after a win next week. That's important. Finish the year on a win. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think the fixture isn't out yet, is it, for next week?
For next week?
As in the day and time yet?
Yeah, I think it's. Wait, is it in Melbourne? Do you know of that?
I think it was fixtured for Marvel. Yeah, so that might change, but I assume it's probably going to be a Sunday game now, considering both teams might not be able to make finals, but we'll see.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, mate, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you later.
See you, Isaac. Catch up. All right. Well, thanks for waiting, everyone. We've got 2 more. We've got Heath and we've got Victoria. So thanks for both of you for waiting. I know it's taken ages. We'll go through Heath and then we'll get to Victoria, lucky last as well. Heath.
Yes, Jake.
Give me all your thoughts, mate. Tell me how you're feeling about that game.
I was first quarter was fantastic. I had no issues with that. The rest of the game, I was constantly rage quitting at the TV and just bagging the umpires and saying that Geelong are a protected species.
So I'm guessing you're alluding to the free kicks and the umpires. You're pretty frustrated with the way the game was umpired.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. What was the worst decision of the umpires? I haven't asked anyone this, so I'm interested to see what you say.
This one, oh geez. There was a few. Probably the Blitzarves and Crouch incident. The one where they should have got holding the ball when it wasn't.
Yeah. And then Dunstan got pinned.
And then
right
Steele, like, not getting hold of the ball.
Yeah. And the 50, don't forget that. Radigalia kicking it when it's Steele's free kick, and they don't pay that either. It's just classic Geelong.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah. Are they your most hated team? Who's your most hated team?
Collingwood.
Collingwood. Well, Geelong are mine. So my best mate is a Geelong fan. So it's not fun watching games with him. I can tell you that. What was your biggest positive of the game, apart from the first quarter? Apart from the quarter itself, what was your biggest positive?
I thought King Hanbury was surprisingly did well first game back.
Yep.
Sharman. Oh, who else? There was quite a few. Then negative Howard.
You saying Howard was a negative?
No, positive, not negative.
Yep. What were the issues from the game for you?
Oh, just the way we allowed Geelong to do their chip mark style. They wanted to keep it off us. I'm like, geez, can we change something? I felt like Rats didn't change anything throughout the game. Like, did you see that at all?
Nah, you make a good point. That's one thing that I've questioned about not just Rats, but us as a club and even his assistant coaches. What are they saying when, we're 5 goals up and then suddenly we're only 2 goals up and Geelong have had 25 marks in a row? What are they saying to him? What are we saying to the players to adjust? And even in the last quarter, when we're only 2 points down with 4 minutes to go, we're just letting them chip around and waste time without trying to do anything. And I'm thinking, we've got the same amount of players on the ground. Why don't we just man on man everyone, and they actually have no one to kick to? But we just let them play.
Yeah, I was going to say, too many times this year where in front we fail to play the way that they're playing and keep going. Like Adelaide, basically the games that we've like gone up and then choked.
Yeah. Do you think we lack that killer instinct?
Yeah. Yep.
Like Geelong, even when they were 5 goals down, didn't panic, backed in their system. Do you think that our game plan, when it's at its best, is sustainable to be a top team?
Yes, I believe so. But on the other hand, like, opposition clubs are going to be like, yeah, you just take St Kilda's main couple strengths away and they just crack under pressure and let them go on their merry way.
You think that's true? Do you think, say you take out Marshall didn't have a big day? I feel like that was a big factor because Stanley actually, again, for some reason, I think anytime we play Geelong, Stanley actually has a decent game. So I don't know why that is, but he seems to bring out his best form against us. But then King went down, and the second King went off, the game changed, didn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly right.
So when King goes down, what's the best strategy in your eyes? Do we keep bombing it long? Because I think that's what we did. We kept playing fast, and we didn't have anyone there to actually mark the ball. What would you suggest?
I would just don't bomb the ball. We know that King's not there. I would just like lower the eyes and hit targets and get the over handball up and running. But obviously we didn't do that.
You sound frustrated, mate.
I am. I'm trying trying my best not to be, but it's not that hard. You can tell.
Yeah. Are you were you yelling at the TV when you watched the game?
Yeah, pretty much. I was swearing. I was like, "Oh my god!" I did a lot of that, a lot of WTFs. Pretty much.
Yeah, I try to keep the emotions in when I'm watching the game, but it's just not possible.
Yeah,
Just
I
especially
don't blame you.
when we're trying and we're tackling and we're doing the right things, and then Geelong just throw it out of the pack or they duck and get a free kick, and it just changes the whole momentum of the game. It's just those are the worst types of losses for me. What are your thoughts on next year? Give me your feelings based on what you've seen this year, the good and the bad. Do you think we can bounce back and make the 8 next year?
Well, our best has been good, but also our worst has been shit. So we need to fix the gap between our best and worst. And like I saw your post with Talia, I'm like, why not bring him in?
Yeah,
could work.
He's 29.
Yeah.
Who else would you bring in? Is there anyone from another club that we might be able to lure over, or is there anyone that might suit our system?
I heard you were saying about Charlie Constable from Geelong. He wouldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, he's kind of like to me Lincoln McCarthy from Brisbane. They got him from Geelong, right? He was a bit injury prone, but when he played, he had a bit of X factor. He had something about him at a young age. They got him fit, and now he's one of their best small forwards with Charlie Cameron. I feel like with Constable, it's the same situation, and I don't think he'd cost a lot. I'm not sure if he's out of contract or not, but having a young mid like that with Burns, with Connolly, the young brigade coming through, that could be a big positive for us.
Yeah, I feel like we rely too much on Steele.
Yeah. Well, he was on his way. I thought he was going to get 50 disposals the way he was going, because he had 20 halfway through the second quarter, and then he finished with 30. So for the next 2.5 quarters, he's only had the 10 touches.
That was probably to either Geelong tagging him or he just somehow died out of the game.
I think it was a bit of both. I think someone tagged him. I'm not sure who, but it would also be Geelong chipping it around. We didn't have possession as it is. They just chipped it around. We only had 290 disposals. They had over 400. So the game just played into their hands, mate. And when it's played into Geelong's hands, there's only one result, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a Geelong win most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what are your feelings towards next week?
Oh, honestly, let's end Fremantle's year. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. Just to get the win. I'd love to, if hopefully Max King's fully fit, but I'd love to just see him kick an absolute bag. Just in the last game of the year, just kick 5 or 6, end it on a high. We can all celebrate on fan cam next week and then hope for a good off season. That sounds all right.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good to me.
All right, mate. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. And hopefully you can detox tomorrow and not be too frustrated at the result.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
All right, mate. I'll chat to you next week. See you, Heath.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
See you, mate. All right, we've got Victoria and I think one more potentially. Let's go with Victoria.
Hi.
Hey, sorry for it's taken you, an hour and 20 minutes to get on? How are you feeling?
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Right.
I don't know, it was good, we started really well, and that happens pretty frequently, and then we can't hold on to a lead all the time, and it's frustrating.
I think that's that's a feeling that we're all going through at the moment. What did you think of the first quarter? We started that was probably our best quarter of the year, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. And it was good seeing so last week, I guess our small forwards had a day out. And then now our big forwards kind of stepped up this week, like Membry, Sharman, King. Not that they were lacking, but Membry had a bit of a rough patch in the middle of the year. And then, we all know about King. And Sharman's he's just at the beginning of his career and he's doing great things already. So that was good to see.
Yeah. What was the biggest frustration from today? Apart from losing, obviously, because that's number one, but what was the next thing?
I don't know, because I felt like we definitely were trying. We were trying to get the ball, but I think maybe just little errors that cost us, small skill errors, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, so do you think, we've talked about this in years and years gone by, but do you think we need to look at players that are just genuinely good kicks of the football?
Yeah, I think so. That could be our best bet. Connolly, he's really good. I think we missed him, but of course he was concussed. Highmore, I think we really missed Highmore today in the back. But I don't know who we would have taken. He was injured, of course, but when he can be back, and then we'll get Patton back. It's it's going to be a juggle of all around the ground, who we put in, who sits out.
Yep. And people forget Geary. Apparently he's going to get a 1-year deal, so one more year. And a lot of people are kind of on the fence. Does he play one more year? He's a bit old. Is he in our best team? What do you think of someone like Geary? Do you think he can come in and be a leader in the back line? Do you think we need more players like him just to control things and settle things down?
I like Geary. My dad says he's pretty slow and he gets frustrated watching Geary. But I think if we can have a few solid games throughout the year with Hannahs and Geary on, just having that leadership on the field and get the confidence with the boys, I think it'd be really good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a few points from today. Just every loss this year has just been a big blur to me.
Yeah.
Are you frustrated about today, or are you proud of the boys? Because I know most people in the comments, when I posted the full-time post, already, we're shit, we're this, we're that. Are you proud that we took it up to a team like Geelong? Because Geelong lost last week. People forget.
Yeah.
They were coming into this game knowing that if they win, they'll be top of the ladder.
Yeah.
So they had a lot to play for.
That's true. No, look, it's always frustrating. It's upsetting when you get a loss, but at the end of the day, one team always has to win. And we knew it was going to be a big task, facing Geelong at their home ground after they've just lost there. I think we put in a good effort. I think.
Good enough?
I don't know.
I'm asking the hard questions. That's.
I know. I love the boys so much. It's hard to be critical of them, but I don't know. There's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah. Well, are you optimistic about 2022? Do you think that we'll bounce back?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
What makes you confident that we will?
Ben Patton, he was great last year, and you kind of think where would we be if we had him this year? But then it was also really great to see Connolly and Highmore develop, and then Jade Gresham, he's a legend on the field. Where would we be if we had him playing this year? I think there's a lot to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, well, we've had injuries. We've had the hardest draw fixture out of any team. If anything, one positive you could take from this year would be we've played the top teams more than any other team.
Yeah. Every time we've had to play a team twice, it's always been one of the top teams.
Yeah. But this year, because we've wanted to make finals so much this year, we're all thinking, oh, damn, why have we got such a hard fixture? I just want to make finals. I want to win every week. But now that we don't we can't make finals. Like
Mhm.
I think mathematically we still can, but it's really not going to happen. Like
Yeah.
we'll just put it out there.
Yeah.
Do you think now we can look back and be like, okay, well, finals is done, but we've played all the top teams. We've learned, we've played some of them well. We've lost to some of them. So we've had a bit of a mixed bag. And at the same time, Max King's gotten better. We've learned, we've drafted and played Burns, who looks pretty good. Connolly looks pretty good. And Sharman now looks really good. Do you think, is that how you would look at the year now and think, well, there's still some good stuff about it?
Yeah, I was listening in on some of the other ones, and you guys were saying how, like, if we see this season as so bad, but we're still like 1 game out of the 8, like imagine if we produce a year that we think's really good, where we'll end up,
Yeah. It doesn't take much, does it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think like it was great that we were able to discover so many like young guns on our list as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going into this year, all the news reports were just saying, oh, Saints have got the oldest team, which wasn't correct. It was just
Geelong has the
Geelong
oldest
by
team.
far have the oldest team.
Yeah.
I think it was just more our list as a whole was old, but that's because we got McKernan in, we got Mason Wood, Paddy Ryder's getting a bit older, but he's a star anyway. Those players bring up that age, but our best 22 is actually quite young.
Yeah. About Mason Wood, I know people kind of bagged him when we got him in. And at the start, he was a little rusty, but he had some really good games for us, I have to say.
He did. To be honest, I actually forgot that we even had him. Someone mentioned his name on Fox Footy. They're like, oh, Mason Wood's been injured. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's actually been okay. I keep forgetting.
He's been good.
Yeah, he could play that mid-sized forward role. He's capable.
For sure.
Yeah. So before I get on to Joey, give me a prediction on what we can expect next year from the Saints.
I don't know if we can expect it, but I heard you talking with the other guys, and I think it'd be really cool if we tried to like experiment, like, because we've got a lot of midfielders now and a couple of small forwards, like try and put them in different positions, see if we can use them elsewhere on the ground, because we've got lots of good players and it'd be a shame to see them on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, versatility is pretty important in football now, isn't it? You don't have it's rare to have one player play one position. It's multiple. Ruckman can play forward, forwards can play in the ruck, backman can play on the wing. It's just So I think that's pretty important. Well, I guess we'll wrap it there. I know I'm pretty down. I hate losing.
No,
I'm really
it's
competitive, but
I was pretty I was pretty upset like when it first happened, but I've let it simmer down a little bit, so I'm all right.
That's what happens when you talk to other Saints supporters. You're all like, you mention one thing and only a Saints supporter gets it. They're like, I totally agree. God, this happened, that player is shit, this and that. So it's always good to hop on and have a chat with some Sainers. So thank you for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's all right. Hopefully we'll chat next week about a win against Freo.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks, Victoria. See ya.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. Joey, are you there? Joey's not there, is he? He's fixing his camera. You there, Joey?
Hey, Jake.
Joey's frozen.
I realised you had to click enter studio.
Oh, that's all right, mate. I know it's pretty technical stuff. How you going?
Yeah, no, the new.
Your Wi-Fi's pretty. Oh no, there we go. You're there.
Yep.
Give me your thoughts. Oh, you're gone, mate. Oh, Joey. I think we've lost Joey. All right. Well, I might wrap it up there, guys. Sorry, Joey, mate. Your internet was a bit spastic there, so hopefully we'll get you on next week. Thanks for joining, everyone. I know it wasn't the result that we wanted. The boys played some amazing football in that first quarter, and then from then on, Geelong just put the clamps on and got it back on their terms, and it was a struggle from that point on, really. So it is what it is. The season is pretty much done, but we've got next week, so we'll be back for the fan cams after the Fremantle game, hopefully to talk about a win to see out the year. So thanks for everyone for joining. This will be up on YouTube, I think later tonight, so hopefully you get to watch it there. Anyway, thanks, guys, and go you mighty Saints. Cheers.